Thought Bubble Audio.
Look, up in the sky!
You will never find the more wretched hive of scum and villainy.
Welcome to Beer with Geeks with Tim and Frank.
Who are you?
I'm Batman.
I am Iron Man.
Your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man.
Hi, Christopher. I'm Nero.
My name is Inigo Montoya.
You're a wizard, Harry.
A couple of guys with a couple of beers and a whole lot of pop culture nostalgia.
Make it so, number one.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Beatles.
I named the dog Indiana.
Life finds a way.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
Now sit back and crack open a cold one, because it's time for Beer with Geeks.
It comes in paints.
Shaken, not stirred.
Great Scott!
I was way off. I knew it started with an S, though.
Hi, and welcome to Beer with Geeks, where two geeks geek out with beer. I'm Tim, and with me, as always, is my man who loves to say, Alan. It's Frank. How are you today?
I'm doing all right, Alan. How are you?
Oh, good. I wouldn't mind if my name was Alan. That wouldn't be the worst thing in the world, although it doesn't really go with my last name.
No, it's true. But, you know, if you were Alan and you were a paleontologist and you like that would be, that would be your dream come true. Like that,
Sure.
Those would be all of your dreams coming true in one fell swoop. So
Sure, it would be.
I'd be happy for you if that did happen.
Thank you.
Alan, what are you drinking today?
I almost reciprocated, and I was like, "Well, Alan." No, that's
call each other Alan the entire
Alan.
episode.
Well, that's terrible. No, I am drinking a summer solstice from Anderson Valley Brewing Company. They've been going since 1987, the year of my birth. As the good Lord provided. It's actually my birthday soon. Wait, when is this episode coming out? It was my birthday soon.
No, it will be your birthday
recently.
Soon. Yes.
Recently? Okay, great.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
okay.
It will be soon.
Yeah, so this was intentional, by the way. That's all. Yeah. So, but anyway, they keep going, and it's just it's a really nice summer ale. It's a 5%. It's nothing like, nothing outrageous or anything like that. But the beer can is a bear with antlers, and so it kind of looks like a moose or a deer or something.
That's a really pretty can.
Yeah, it's really nice. What I actually like about it is that it's not a heavy summer. And you know how sometimes you're like, oh, I can't wait to have the summer. And you're like, oh, why is it sitting in my stomach so much?
Yeah, sure.
Like that, it's the summer. It's supposed to be light and breezy and fun and not like I don't want to feel like there's like 90% humidity in my stomach. Like that's not the summer I want.
Yep.
So that's awful. It's a very good summer. I picked it up on a whim. It was one of my pick six, and I'm glad I did. It's pretty solid. So summer solstice coming your way.
Love that. Good for you. That's fantastic. That is really pretty packaging. I do like that a lot.
It is pretty packaging.
Yeah, it is. I went in a completely different direction than you did.
Stout. You're drinking a stout again.
Close, yes.
Yeah.
And you're in the right family.
Summer stouts.
I do enjoy especially on like a breezy summer evening. You're sitting outside in the shade, and there's a nice light breeze. Those are the moments when I will maybe pull out a stout or a porter. So in this case, it is a porter. Smuttynose Brewing, a New Hampshire brewery. Smuttynose Robust Porter. And it is
that's fun,
delightful. It has circus imagery on the can, silhouettes of some circus tents and some circus performers. It's a cool imagery. And actually, I'm just noticing that the shape around the barcode is the Old Man in the Mountain, which doesn't exist anymore. And it's weird that New Hampshire still
that's
uses
cool,
that
though.
iconography so much.
Didn't they just like fake it now? Like, didn't they kind of recarve the mountain or something like that? I had heard that.
I hadn't heard that, but
they They added something to give the face to the old man in the mountain back because he fell down.
He fell down like 20 years ago.
Yeah. God, is it that long already?
I don't know. I don't know. I'm guessing. I just threw a date out there.
I did see it. I was lucky enough to see it when I was a kid.
I never did see it. I'm using my one lookup. And I mean, this was so for folks who are not from New England, this was a rock formation on the side of a mountain in New Hampshire. And when you looked at it from a profile, it looked like the profile of a man, of a face. And it collapsed on May 3rd, 2003. So almost 20 years.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's no longer there, but it's funny because like all the, have you ever noticed that in New Hampshire, the road signs, like on the highway, for state highways, how there'll be like for interstates, right? There's like a badge it's a national system, right? So like there's the blue badge with the red and white stripes on it. It says 95 or whatever, the number inside. The badge shape for New Hampshire state highways, the badge shape is the shape of the old man in the mountain face with the number inside it.
Really?
And it's funny because it's all over our state highway system. And it is a rock formation that has not existed for almost 20 years, but it's still sort of the emblem of the state. It is, you see it as much as you would see like the outline, the shape of the state, anywhere else. But we chose the old man in the mountain for some reason, and it doesn't exist anymore. And it's kind of a weird, funny thing, but I don't know if it has been recarved into the mountain or something like that. I haven't seen that, but, that is interesting. I see. Okay, this might be what you're thinking of. It turns out I'm going to put this in the show notes on Wikipedia. I'm seeing that there are these steel poles that are placed at the vantage point where the sort of people would use the plaza. People would stand to see the old man in the mountain. There are these steel poles that have a little old man in the mountain thing on them, and if you stand at just the right angle, you can make it look like the old man in the mountain is still on the mountain.
I think that's what it is.
Yeah. So they have these things that it's like an illusion where you can stand at just the right angle and make it look like it's still there.
That's not the same.
Not the same.
It is a bummer when like one of your claims to fame or one of your main tourist attractions is a natural thing, because like eventually that thing might go away.
Right.
Like recently I read an article about how the there's been talks, this is a couple of years ago, where it talks about flooding the Grand Canyon to fill another dam because that one, the evaporation level is so high and the water table is so low that like it's not providing the water that they need. But if they connect like these two things through the Grand Canyon, then you would actually have a better water supply for the entire area. And I'm like, well, that would be like, come see the Grand Canyon. It's now filled with water.
Right.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And I mean, it's like, come see what made the Grand Canyon look like it was, but you can't see the bottom anymore.
That would be so interesting because it would make it would erode faster, and it would have all these, implications for, the Grand Canyon would probably become a much wider, bigger canyon over time.
Correct. Over time. I mean, you're talking a long time.
Yeah.
But so interesting. What wasn't around, when the Grand Canyon like existed the way we know it is dinosaurs, Frank. They weren't around.
That's right.
And so like before then it was just like a there was nothing. It was just flat. It wasn't even a little divot in the ground, and then it was water after a while. So, but we're lucky that John Hammond brought back dinosaurs, not once, but twice, but 3 times in Jurassic Park 3. And I'm here to let me tell you why Jurassic Park 3 is wonderful, Frank. So if you excuse me for a second, let me tell you why it's wonderful. Jurassic Park 3 edition. We are celebrating this summer the 20th anniversary of Jurassic Park 3, which means we are also celebrating the 20th year of the sweet Spider-Man teaser trailer of the Two Towers before the tragedy of 9/11.
Oh, wow.
Because that came out with Jurassic Park 3. So, because I remember like seeing that as a kid and being like, oh my gosh, like Spider-Man, but also dinosaurs. This is like the greatest day of my life. Me,
sure.
At however old I was, 13, 14, when when it came out.
Right,
So
right.
yeah. Also, my first DVD, Jurassic Park 3.
Ooh.
I have a lot of cool memories.
A lot of firsts for you. A lot of big milestones for you with this movie.
Yeah, big milestones. Yeah, big ones. I think it was my first DVD. My first one was Citizen Kane, very on brand.
Ooh, yeah, very on brand.
Very on brand.
One day I'm going to get a master's in film. Okay, buddy, here's a movie. Here's a DVD.
Yeah, here's a movie. But for Christmas, I did get my own DVD player with Jurassic Park 3. I think that's what it was.
Nice.
So yeah, big yeah. So, but anyway, here we are. We're going to talk about Jurassic Park 3. People don't like Jurassic Park. People don't like Jurassic Park 3.
No.
People didn't like it when it came out. Like, I don't know how much you remember about it or why people were mad about it or what's terrible about it. I don't know if you...
I saw it.
Okay.
I've seen it. I didn't love it. I more felt that it just wasn't that compelling. I don't remember being offended by it. I just remember sort of thinking that wasn't the best movie I've ever seen.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's not.
It's not.
I mean, I'm going to tell you why it's wonderful, but it's not Jurassic Park. None of them are.
No.
None of them come close to the first one.
Agreed.
So let's just all stop comparing them now, because it's just every iteration of Jurassic Park, maybe except for Jurassic World, to some extent, fails on the commentary. Right, because Jurassic Park is as much about is a conversation about genetics, about the advancement of science, like unprecedented advancement of science without any blocks or anything like that. And most of the movies, like, they kind of like touch upon that, but they don't really get into it. And Jurassic World is really the only other one that like totally, like tries to also go in that direction, but Jurassic Park 3 doesn't do that. It was kind of made like slapdash, which is part of the reason that I think it's so wonderful, because like the fact that you could pull off a movie that is just like a full movie where they're like, yeah, just do stuff. Like,
yeah, and it feels that way. Like the movie comes across that way.
Yeah, they like had a script. It was good to go. Joe Johnston got hired kind of late in the game to direct it. Like, we all love Joe Johnston. Like, he makes great movies, like Captain America: First Avenger, The Rocketeer. Like, worked on Star Wars. Joe Johnston is great, but he is this Hollywood guy. They're like, crap, we don't have anybody. Get Joe Johnston. He'll make a movie. Like, and which is cool. Like, for him, I guess.
For sure.
October Sky, directed October Sky, which is a great movie. So, but it's good for him. But I think it's like 2 weeks before they were supposed to start filming, Steven Spielberg was like, rewrite it, do it again.
Yikes!
And you're like, Steven, what are you doing?
We can't just do that.
Yeah, and he's like, but we can. Let's do it. So they like had stuff ready to go. Obviously, they knew what dinosaurs were going to be in it, where like the main action was going to take place, and all of this different stuff. But like some of like what the central reason for being on Isla Sorna, it like changed, and that shifted, and who's going to be there, and like, they went to an old staple, a Steven Spielberg staple. Let's get, it's going to be about family.
Right.
It's like a Fast and Furious movie.
Sure.
It's about family. It's about fathers and sons and blah, 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 and all this stuff. So, but here's why I like it. I think that it has some of the best action set pieces of any of the Jurassic Park films. Like, it's really, really solid animatronic work, and there's some very cool stuff that they do on the island.
Okay.
So I recently read the 2 Michael Crichton novels, Jurassic Park and Lost World. I had never read either of them to completion, and so I finally got around to doing that this summer, and I was curious to see actually how much of Jurassic Park 3 is influenced by the Lost World, because Lost World, the movie and the book take place on Site B, the second island,
right,
like where they like raise the dinosaurs or for a bit before they go to the zoo, or where they're really grown in batches, or what Jurassic Park 3 touches on, which is cool, is like how much you get wrong or right, or because like it's not like oh, you make the dinosaur in the little lab and it comes out perfect and blah blah blah. It's like, no, that's like there's no room for error there. It's not big enough. So like you have this second sight to be like, how much can we make in mass production if something goes wrong and blah blah blah. And I like that the second movie like shows some of that equipment, like in the Jurassic Park lore of the world. There's like, William H. Macy, bless him, is like, oh, is this, he and Tia Leone are walking around. She's like, oh, is this where you make dinosaurs? And Alan Grant's like, no, this is how you play God. And it's like, it's really the only bit of the movie that touches upon that kind of stuff.
Right.
But
it's kind of the only commentary.
It is the only commentary. It's way more interested in the family dynamic than the commentary. But I like that you get to see some of that in the film, and that's kind of ignored in Lost World, and that was part of the fun of the second book. And so I like that they kind of brought that into the movie. So that's partly why it's wonderful.
Plot-wise, does the movie Jurassic Park II: The Lost World, does that pretty much follow the plot of The Lost World, the novel?
Not really. No. They take there's elements of it. So The Lost World, the movie, like, they're trying to turn Jurassic Park and Site B into a preserve.
Right.
Like, okay, the animals exist, so we're trying to protect them now. So like you have to go in and document them, that they have behavior, that they have this and this and this, to prove that they're not just like weird science experiments. And so that's not really the purpose of the second novel. Is actually about evolution and like how does like a lost world, the scientific definition of a lost world is like an untouched domain in which so people haven't interfered with the world, like that environment at all, so animals can naturally like grow on their own and exhibit behaviors without interference. And you could argue that anytime like any human like goes into a space, you've interrupted the natural environment, therefore it's no longer a lost world. So, and that's part of the conversation of the novel. That's mostly kind of what it's about. No one touches upon that in any movie, really. No one talks about evolution.
I was going to say, okay, so really none of the actual story of that novel really gets told in the films.
Not really. No, some of the set pieces, like the trailers and the T-Rexes and the like that kind of stuff.
Yep.
Does there's two like competing teams on the island, that kind of thing.
Okay.
But besides that, it's not really close.
Gotcha.
No, not in the way that the first book is kind of close, but not really. Even the first book, it's like Hammond's a jack, like he's awful.
Oh, really?
Like, yeah, he's like the worst kind of. He's like. How like the good kind of like, oh, he just wanted to do a good thing, but he didn't see the bad that he was doing, but he's grandpa, you want to give him a hug?
Yeah, right.
Take that, but completely switch it.
Okay.
Total capitalism, money gain, doesn't care about anybody, blah, blah, blah. It's like a complete opposite. It's a complete shift. Muldoon, who's like so cool in the, clever girl in the movie, is just like a drunk who like hates life, and this, it changes. Jurassic Park 3 doesn't have any of that. It only has the characters that it has, right? Because it's not based on anything.
Right.
It's not based on anything except continuing science, cool set pieces, whatever else. But I'm really here to talk about two different things. Like one, the Spinosaurus. Got to talk about it.
Yes.
People were so mad 20 years ago when the Spinosaurus comes in, fights the T-Rex, and kills the T-Rex.
Tell me why.
Because the T-Rex, Tyrannosaurus Rex, people like, it's the king, it's T-Rex.
Sure.
Like everybody, like even though we know now it wasn't even the biggest carnivore that goes to Gigantosaurus, which is going to be in Jurassic World Dominion.
Nice.
So like people have a childhood connection to the Tyrannosaurus that they do not have to the Spinosaurus, even though the Spinosaurus was a bigger dinosaur. And now in a 2020 update, doesn't even like they to remodel the fossil and be like, oh, it actually didn't really look like it did, like we thought it did. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So you're saying mass audiences were unhappy because we all traditionally have this idea that the T-Rex is the the biggest and toughest dinosaur. And so seeing Spinosaurus
Correct.
take it out for movie going audiences was like, what? That's not how it's supposed to be, because I was taught in kindergarten that the T-Rex was the big one.
Exactly. That's exactly right. Because most people lose their interest in dinosaurs as they get older, right? You know, you love your trucks, you love your cars, you love your dinosaurs, whatever, you know, when you're a kid. And a lot of people don't hold on to that stuff, you know, even though, like, obviously people still kind of like it because these like Jurassic Park movies keep making lots of money, and
Sure.
it's not 4-year-olds driving the box office. So clearly, there's a part of you that still really likes dinosaurs. You just stopped learning about them, you know. But so people were upset that the preconceived notion of like what they thought a T-Rex could do could be taken out by something bigger, which is, you know, true. It probably could have, you know, and
There's always a bigger fish.
exactly. And it's funny because the Spinosaurus was actually kind of aquatic. So it actually really probably went for fish more than anything else. Kind of like a ginormous crocodile, like 50 times the size of a crocodile. So big, so very big. So in like Jurassic Park lore, it even was like, oh no, that was a baby T-Rex. It was like, it wasn't a fully grown T-Rex. Like they've like gone back and like retrofitted retconned some of the thing. Because if you might recall from Lost World, there's a not an infant T-Rex, but like a youth Rex that's only, you know, that like that the two other Tyrannosaurs have, you know, in their little family unit. And so I think it's supposed to be that Rex that actually dies. It's like, oh, it wasn't fully grown yet, blah, 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 all this stuff. People so mad.
That's so funny. So like, let's just justify it by saying it was not a fully grown T-Rex.
It wasn't fully grown. Yeah. So, but I love that one. That fight is cool because it's a good chunk of CG, but it's also a good chunk of animatronics, like really sophisticated animatronics. And so I think that's that bit is very cool. But I like that it's a new threat. You're not just seeing the old stuff over again, and that's kind of what happens in Lost World, which is where I think like Jurassic Park is actually Jurassic Park 3 is a bit of a it's a bit of a, no, I don't want to say it's a better film, but it at least tries to do something different.
Yeah.
Because like you watch the second one, it's like, okay, so there's some Stegosaurs. Yep, there they are. That's very good. Good. And then the Tyrannosaur. Yep, but now there's 2 of them. And you like the Velociraptors? Well, now there's more of them. And now there's another Tyrannosaur set piece, and so on. And so like, at least this movie's like, bam. Here's your Spinosaurus. Here's something different. And they do this fun thing, which I like. You know, I'm a big Peter Pan fan, right? You know, I love the Peter Pan. And so I love the bit that, you know, like the Spinosaurus swallows the cell phone. So every time it rings, like, you know, the Spinosaurus is around,
right?
Much like the crocodile,
right,
from Peter Pan. And because they look similar, it's a really fun allusion to some cool piece of literature.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that. And like, cool, like the water scene, like the boat and the water scene is very well done.
Sure.
But
yes.
Yeah.
I remember that scene. Yes.
Yeah. That's
super
very
well done.
Yeah, I mean, think about that. That's also animatronics submerged in the water. It's like, hey, you remember when the shark didn't work in Jaws?
I was just gonna say, like 25 years on or whatever it was, Spielberg, you know, finally got his water animatronics working.
Exactly, finally. Well, because even in the first Jurassic Park, there's like, he very last minute, Spielberg was like, hey, let's add rain to this sequence where the Tyrannosaurus is leaving, like getting out of the paddock, and everyone's like, we didn't make this so it could be rained on. We don't know what it's gonna do. Like, and he's like, okay, well, let's try it anyway. And
they did have issues with it, didn't they?
They did. It kept shuddering.
Right.
Like, so like
bonus
yeah, it looks like it's cold.
DVDs.
It just like keeps shivering. So it did work, but they had to like keep patting it down and drying it, and because a lot of it was like latex and stuff, it kept absorbing into the thing. And so interesting. But now, so they're like, here they are tackling this problem, and instead, let's go full force into the water. And I think that's very cool. And I think one of the best sequences, like Jurassic Park is, yes, it's action and whatever else, but there are moments that are supposed to scare you, right? You know, like the Velociraptors, particularly, like let's pop out of the you know, the wiring in the first movie and stuff like that. You don't know where they are, and blah blah blah. And so in this movie, they do that kind of thing, but they do it with pterodons, right? Which are not a dinosaur. They were a reptilian bird. So there's actually a distinct difference because dinosaurs are broken into two separate groups, sauropods and theropods. And the pterodons, dimorphodons, like these, anytime you see basically a winged dinosaur, quote unquote, it's not actually a dinosaur. So
even like a pterodactyl?
Not a dinosaur.
Cool.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Today I learned.
There you go. There you go. But I like that sequence, you know, like it's a little heavy-handed. They're like, in the movie, you know, in the movie when they're like, oh my God, it's a bird cage. And then Tia is like, for what? Like birds. Tia only like birds. Like, oh my goodness. But it's really cool. It's like the fog, like it's really foggy and there's a lot of cool imagery and like they're very, like you would assume, like many birds and nests, they're territorial, and so there's like reasons for them to be like aggressive towards the people in their nest and stuff, and like that stuff is all like for a movie that was haphazardly like thrown together, like because the script got ditched so close to filming, that stuff still like it really sells and it really works. And I just think that beyond like some of the story points that are kind of meh and you know whatever else, like the you have two parents who have split apart and they have their son who like goes, you know, parasailing or whatever with the other guy, and they, you know, they get stuck on this island, that other guy doesn't make it and all that stuff. Like a movie about familial reconciliation, you know, like coming back together.
Sure.
Who doesn't like, that's good. Who doesn't like to see that? A family actually working through their problems, realizing what's important and not important. And that's good. That's good. Like, that's a good lesson for a younger audience. That's what, or for even for, let's face it, an older audience who might, So
that's sort of the heart of this movie. Like if this movie has heart, it's around that family story, right?
That's
like,
right.
And you're right that where the first film was that sort of social commentary and sort of you could boil the movie down to, you know, you were so busy thinking about whether you could that you didn't think about whether you should. That's sort of what the movie is really about. But the third, it doesn't really have that kind of commentary. You mentioned that one moment where there's like a passing reference to it, but really it's a family story.
Correct. Well, I mean, that's also part of the Jurassic franchise is always about that. Like, you know, the first movie is Alan Grant learning that like kids are okay. Like he actually doesn't mind them, you know, like he's very anti-child at the beginning of the movie and he spends basically the whole film protecting children. Yeah. Like that's
his personal arc.
Correct. Right. And then the second movie is about Malcolm, like learning to be a better dad and a better provider and all that stuff. So like, and then you follow that into the third film and that's again, still what it's about. And that's what the fourth film is about and parts of the fifth film. And so the importance of the family unit and what that looks like in an evolving and shaping world is important because they keep talking about like, oh, dinosaur nesting this and dinosaurs are actually in a group over here, and they don't apply that to themselves as part of a family unit. And so I like that's the juxtaposition of those, or the parallel, I should say, between those things is it's good. That's solid Jurassic Park work. And honestly, like when it comes down to it, Spinosaurus, I just really like the Spinosaurus. I can talk all day. I can like justify why Jurassic Park III is wonderful for its own reasons, but really it's just Spinosaurus is so freaking cool. So good.
It's a super cool looking dinosaur. Like
it is a cool dinosaur.
Very, very cool.
I got a sweet Spinosaurus statue, actually.
Nice.
Yeah. It's cool. I like it. So
that's cool.
You can't see it. It's over there.
It's off.
It's fine.
That's okay.
Yeah.
So that was something that audiences didn't like at the time. The Spinosaur defeating the T-Rex. Were there other things that other than the movie just sort of being being okay? Were there other things that like upset audiences at the time?
Well, I think that audiences were still adjusting to we're putting CG in a movie. Again, so I remember they being like, there's too much CG. And I do remember there being complaints that there were too many dinosaurs, which I thought was really funny.
A bizarre complaint.
Like, so there's like a scene where I think it's a Tyrannosaurus like comes up and like sniffs some poop and like some Tyrannosaur poop, and because they're near it, it like ignores them because you know sense and whatever else.
Sure.
People were like, that was unnecessary scene and stuff like that. I'm like, was it unnecessary, or was it just supposed to kind of lighten the mood for a second so you can catch your breath before they're running to the next action set piece? Like, calm down, calm your horses. So I remember that that was a thing, and also so there's a slight change to the velociraptors in the film, and two things. One, they're like, velociraptors were even smarter than we realized, and people were like, all right, let's like, how smart were they? Like, people couldn't get on board that animals like communicate with one another, even though we see that across the animal kingdom. Right.
Like, look at your dog interacting with another dog at the dog park. Like, they're communicating, they're interacting.
Obviously they're communicating. Right. And so, but even like things like we know dolphins actually have names for one another.
Yes,
they have individual names they call each other by, and they like elephants mourn their dead, and chimpanzees teach their young to use tools, and like all of this stuff. And you're like, no, there's no possible way that like they could ever communicate with one another. Like,
yeah, this dolphin's name is Alan.
Yeah, right. Alan. Yeah, well, that was obviously the thing that people. We'll talk about that at the end.
Talk about that,
Frank.
Okay, cool,
yeah.
Cool.
So, but there was also, dinosaurs. Most dinosaurs had feathers because there's like two versions of dinosaurs. One is a little close to birds, and the other one is really not. And so, dinosaurs probably had feathers, including the velociraptors, which were already scientifically inaccurate anyway in the movies. You know, they're too big for the breed that they are, but not important. So they like some of the redesign of the velociraptors were like putting little feathery top things or whatever in there on their skulls and whatever else, and people were not having that. They were like, it doesn't look like a velociraptor, it doesn't this, the feathers are stupid, blah blah blah, which they don't look great. I'm not going to really I won't defend that, but like the whole reason they knew that dinosaurs had feathers back in 1993. That wasn't a new it wasn't a new discovery. They knew, but Steven Spielberg said to Jack Horner, who was the paleontologist, like their paleontological expert on the movie, and he was like, colorful feathered dinosaurs aren't scary, so we're not doing that.
Yeah, that's fair.
And I in some ways that is fair. Though I do think that colorful animals can still be scary. Like, you don't look at a tiger and be like, ooh, like that's not scary at all.
But I can see how he feels like maybe this looks more like Big Bird and less like a scary predator.
Absolutely. And there definitely is a blend of the two of them. But I think that people like, we had what dinosaurs look like in our brains even when we were kids for so long, to kind of shift that expectation so drastically is that probably doesn't help your movie, right? And at the end of the day, it's fiction. And even Jurassic World goes out of its way to be like, we never actually made real dinosaurs. We made monsters because this is what you think dinosaurs look like. Right. But they're not actually dinosaurs. And I like that. I like that inclusion because they're not dinosaurs. A lot of them don't look like what they are. If you type in like Tyrannosaurus Rex 2020, 2021, he's just a big chub. Like he looks more like Barney than like the Jurassic Park of 1993 of yesteryear.
Sure. Yeah, because I mean, and you've spent more time, studying this, reading up on this than I have. But like when we find dinosaur fossils, which is essentially, the fossilized bone, how do we know like what the rest of their build, like how much like fat would have been on their frame or whatever? Like how can we, I guess what I'm asking is, are there scientific ways that we have sort of backed into that and been able to decipher like, well, there must have been some soft tissue here, but it didn't get fossilized. But like, do we have ways of knowing that how do we know that the T-Rex was probably chubbier than we thought? How do we know that many dinosaurs had feathers?
Well, actually, those are great questions, and so some of them are the way that the skeletal structure is built, and based on other animals. So, like, how much can legs of this size support the rest of this skeleton? How big would the muscle have to be? How much? You can actually figure out that ratio
kind of
pretty well
based on other animals that we know.
Exactly, exactly. And so there's that. We do have fossilized feathers on dinosaurs, so it's not like, oh, we think they had them. Like, nope, here they are. We're like looking at them. They're like it's very evidence right there. There's that. We do have dinosaur tissue that's also been preserved in different areas. So like actual. The actual DNA that people were like, oh, you can make dinosaur DNA from mosquitoes, blah blah blah.
Right.
You can't really, but like we have some DNA here. So like there's all that kind of stuff really helps understand like what structures look like. But what the actual face and stuff looks like is really no different than like knowing that the bone structure is similar to birds. So it would look somewhat like, they kind of like looking at like Neanderthals and going like Cro-Magnon and stuff like that. You kind of look at those and like, I know what Homo sapiens look like. So let me kind of work around what this skull looks like here. How is it shaped and different? And then you build from there. It's all in the same wheelhouse.
That makes sense. Interesting. Huh.
Yeah. So, yeah. But anyway, Jurassic Park 3, not as bad as people say. Definitely one of those. Definitely one of those. It's actually okay.
It's fine.
It's fine. It's not great. Like, it's not like we've done some. Let me tell you why it's wonderful. Like we did Xanadu.
Right.
Like it's better than Xanadu. I hate to tell you.
Yeah. Probably
it's better made than Xanadu. Whether it's more enjoyable is up to the person.
Subjective. But
that's
is it
correct?
It is a better made film than Xanadu. Yes,
it is sure. So, but that's That's Jurassic Park 3.
So tell me. So let's talk about the Alan.
So probably the thing
the
that
most
gets
iconic scene in the whole movie, the most memorable for sure.
Yeah. So Alan Grant is really nervous about going back to Isla Nublar. And even though they end up on Isla Sorna anyway, and he's like, never been here. Thanks for taking me to the different island with dinosaurs. So he falls asleep on the plane and wakes up, and there's a velociraptor on the plane, and it says, Alan. And then, but actually, it's just a nightmarish dream sequence. And I think people make too much of it, but also it's really funny. And I don't know why it's in the movie.
It's kind of absurd, right?
It's like so absurd.
It's supposed to be scary, but it's actually kind of funny.
It's scary when he wakes up and then turns and there's a velociraptor, but also, so this is things working against it. One, the plane is empty. And it's still clearly in the sky.
Yeah.
So it makes no logical sense before you even see the raptor, how it would be there. And then so they just like double down on that by having it speak.
Yes.
And that that's the thing that doesn't work. But if like his nightmare was like the plane was already on the ground and like the plane was empty and he turns, that's scarier. It's the location of the plane makes it weird.
Yes.
In the sky. Surrounded by clouds. Yeah, it's no good. Alan. Actually, the Amblin Twitter account, just like when it was the weekend of release for Jurassic Park 3, they're like, oh, Jurassic Park 3 came out, blah, blah, blah. It's known for this and this and this and this. And they wrote about and you, of course, Alan,
nice.
They, like parentheses with the quotes, Alan. And I was like, oh, hey, like the company that made the movie is trolling its own movie. I love that. Whoever their social media manager is, hats off to them.
Yeah, seriously. That's great. Yeah. That's having a sense of humor about it.
It is.
I love that. Yeah, it's an okay movie. I must say, I do absolutely love. I love William H. Macy. I love Taylor Leone so much. Like I'm a big fan of both of theirs. So like that's I just enjoy that they're in it. So that's a positive thing I can say about it. But totally. it's just an okay movie. It's just okay. I do feel like it's remembered very harshly though. I feel like it's remembered. Yeah, it's remembered like a bad, I don't know. I'm trying to think of other franchises where there's like,
it's kind of remembered. Let's say like Batman and Robin is remembered.
Okay. Yeah. There's an example,
but it's not that.
It's not that bad.
a movie that I also kind of enjoy on its own now that like you're so far removed from it. Sometimes when people think it's the last one, like this is the last chance you have to see something good.
Right.
Like that's when like the feelings are high about stuff. Like it's the last one and you ruined it. Like, Batman and Robin, we never thought there might be another Batman movie again after that. We didn't know what like superhero movie world we were going to walk into in a couple of years.
Sure.
So, so like now that there have been 5 more, kind of 5.5 more appearances of Batman since then with another one on the way, you can look back at Batman and Robin and be like, well, what a fun little entry. Like, even though it's like not great for a lot of reasons, it's really fun for a lot of other reasons.
Right.
And so you can enjoy it from a different perspective. And I think that there have been 2 going on 3 new Jurassic Park movies, plus the short film. So like 3 1/4. Like there's like, get over it. Like, it's not the strongest entry in the franchise, but there's actually a lot to like in there. And shut your face because Alan Grant is back, and that's all that really matters.
All right. Wow, that feels like a good place to leave things.
Yeah. Tell us where the people can find us, Frank.
Yes. You can find us at beerwithgeeks.com. You can find us in any podcast app. We are in all the major podcast directories, from Apple to Spotify and Stitcher to TuneIn.com to your Amazon voice assistant to everywhere else. So you can find Beer with Geeks in all of those places. You can please subscribe. You can leave us ratings and reviews, which are huge and help us with discoverability. So please take a moment and do that if you can. It just takes a second. You can find our other shows at thoughtbubbleaudio.com. We've got a bunch of shows. If you like hearing Tim talk about movies, you want to head on over to Academy Rewind and hear that. If you enjoy, more of the superhero talk, Tim and I talk about Supergirl and Supergirl TV Talk together. I talk about Superman and Lois with friends Robin and Derek over at Superman and Lois TV Talk. So plenty, we got the bases covered with lots and lots of podcast content. You can find all of those at thoughtbubbleaudio.com. And if you enjoy these shows, then you can support us at patreon.com/thoughtbubbleaudio. For as little as $1 a month, you can help us pay the costs that keep these shows going. And you can email us at beerwithgeeks@gmail.com, tweet at us at beerwithgeeks on Twitter. And that is pretty much all she wrote, Alan.
Hey, all right. Well, Frank, it was great. Sorry, Alan, it was great to be with you. And until next time, cheers.
Cheers.